Global DJs, real stories, pure energy. This is Behind the Decks.
Welcome to the second episode of Behind the Decks podcast with me, Ed Paterson. Firstly, just before we go on, I'd like to apologise for the vocal distortion on my vocals during the interview. Work in progress, I'm afraid, and shall be corrected for the next episode. And it does get better towards the middle of the podcast. Right, I've got my very first special guest to introduce to you, so without further ado, let's get on with it. My first guest I have here is Phil Abel, a local to Brighton and Hove DJ and producer, and also a very talented guitarist, I've been finding out. Because, well, a little bit. I've done my research on you, you know.
Where did you find that? Can you send me those links?
Well, do you know what, right? I thought you might find it quite interesting because I went on to ChatGPT and asked it a few questions about you.
It didn't say really good guitarist, though. It couldn't have done. If it did, someone's broken it.
Right, so this is how it starts off. Here's a summary of what I've found out about Phil Abel, DJ and producer.
Deep vibes, real talk. Welcome to the Submix Sessions, mixing the world's best. Background
and musical roots. Phil Abel started out playing guitar and electronic percussion in live rock bands over roughly 2 decades, rocking stages across Europe. He also began DJing. Eventually, he transitioned into digital production. His production career reportedly began in 2021. Genre-wise, he works across melodic house and techno, progressive house, progressive trance, tech house, and techno. Releases and label associations. He has released tracks on several labels, including Tidy Tracks, Recover World Records, Flashover Recordings, Oxytech Records, and collaborations include On the Nose, Hiding, Forever Forgotten, Dance Floor Devil, Incantation, and Voluminata. I can't say that. Voluminati? Is that
it's
right?
like Illuminati, but with volume instead of Illumi.
Okie dokie.
Instead of halloumi. Yeah, Illuminati's the cheesy version.
It also says his music is available on major streaming platforms such as Spotify and Tidal. DJ work and radio. Phil hosts a show called Saturday Pre-Party on Codesouth FM, and he's done live sets. For example, there's a recorded set of his event titled Underground Playground. And it goes on. That's the information I've found out. But really, you know, what I really want to find out is more about you as a person, because anybody can look you up and check you out on your Facebook and your socials and that kind of thing on Mixcloud. So what drove you? Were you musical from a young lad?
Well, both my parents sang in the same choir. Okay, right. I never had any real encouragement towards anything remotely alternative in terms of music. It was both. My dad was Methodist. My mum still is a practicing Catholic. It's an interesting mix, isn't it? But my musical education, as in terms of it being my formal musical education from my parents, was my dad never really brought me music or anything like that and said, oh, you know, listen to this or that kind of thing. But in fact, none of my parents really sort of brought music to me, but they did take us to things like, because they were both in a choir, we used to frequently go to their local choir carol concerts and their Handel's Messiah that they used to sing in, and various different classical recitals that they were involved in because they were both in the choir, and also musicals as well. Things like productions by the world famous Gilbert and Sullivan and Rodgers and Hammerstone. So things like Oklahoma and the Pirates of Penzance and all these kind of like, you know, ghastly amateur dramatic productions, which, you know, I enjoyed at the time. Obviously, you know, I was like age 7 upwards probably. I was enjoying those kind of things. Yeah, those kind of productions, even bits of opera and whatnot. And the records that were around the house were, I mean, my dad was really into. I can still see his Deanna Durbin cassettes in the little revolving cassette rack by the Sanyo stereo in the living room. But there was a lot of it was predominantly like choir based, and singers like Roger Whittaker and Richard Clayderman and people like that, and Perry Como, Bob Hope. There was a beautiful, fantastic Morecambe and Wise record that my mum gave away, which I've never forgiven her for. That was like the Morecambe and Wise sketches. And I was a massive fan of Morecambe and Wise, and a lot of the music that was used in 1970s comedy shows on TV, like by the two Ronnies and Morecambe and Wise as well, and that kind of stuff. Dave Allen and any kind of music that was in those shows, I really sort of embedded itself in me from a very young age. Because if I was laughing, I was enjoying it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I still like have those little bits where I sometimes like go, I haven't seen that the two Ronnies doing that Status Quo track for years. Do you know what I mean? And I'll like go and watch Ronnie, or like the Morecambe Wise doing that famous stripper one, or the one with Andre Previn as well.
You were influenced by your parents due to their singing, which do you know what? I trained as a classical pianist. And I went off in the end. I went off to do a degree in music, and I had to sing in the chamber choir, which meant that I then had to perform in Chichester Cathedral. But there's nothing quite like a sound in that kind of environment, and it is inspiring, all inspiring. To be honest, I'll tell you a little story. I'm not a religious man. I suppose I've got some kind of strange...
You could be an off-duty vicar.
I mean, I've had experience of religion, and it's been around me, and I was
likewise,
and I went to Rome once, and my mum lived in Italy for a while, and she took me into one of these huge sort of cathedrals in Rome. I wouldn't be able to tell you which one it was. She would, but I can't. But I had this little moment which I've never ever had before, where I was stood in the middle, and there was kind of like this choral music that was coming from somewhere anyway in the background. It was a huge, immense building, massive acoustics all the way around it, and I just had this little moment, and I just sort of got overwhelmed with emotion just for a little while, just for a little moment, and I burst into tears. And it was like a weird, somebody described it as an epiphany, but no, I don't know what it...
of clarity.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was just something that moved me. I'm not saying that I saw God or anything like that, because I definitely didn't. But there was...
Let's not go there.
No, but there
That's
was...
a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. So I thought this the perfect moment in which to play you a Phil Abel remix. This is available on Beatport. It is Dan and Dan, Sirens. And once again, a Phil Abel remix.
From the booth to your speakers. Behind the Decks, hosted by Ed Paterson.
Wow, wasn't that good? I really enjoyed that. That was dark, that was steady, solid techno, and full of dynamics. And I went off into a little dream there for a moment listening to that. Absolute pleasure. That's Phil Abel remix, Dan and Dan, Sirens. Right, I want to go back to the interview, and we'd been discussing Phil's early experiences of music, and I basically asked him where it all went from there, and this is what he said.
I found a copy of A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles, which is my mum's, and I had like my own personal first turntable. I think it was by a company called GEC, General Electronic Communications, I think is the name of the company, and it was like it was a tiny little, it didn't even have like a full 12-inch size platter. It was just like a 7-inch platter, or a 35 RPM size platter, you know, and that's the record for my first turntable, and it was like made of steel. It was like really quite brutal, and it was a direct drive one as well. It was like so it was pretty rugged, and that's where I first really heard that. I still get goosebumps, really weirdly enough, thinking about it when I hear that first chord from A Hard Day's Night coming out of that crappy little GEC speaker, just going bang, you know. And I was like, I was in, mate. That was it. I was just absolutely in. For me, the Beatles are where it first started, really, in terms of like just changing the way that I listened to sound and so forth. My opinion of the Beatles as time's gone on and more information has come out, and of having read biographies on different members of the band, and learned different things about them. Maybe I'm not as big a fan of them as people as I ever was, but musically they still, you know, if you took the Beatles out of the equation, I think I can't be specific, but I would say about 79% of the popular music that we love today would probably sound very different, and a lot of it wouldn't even exist, you know.
Yeah.
Especially even right. So if you go like because the Beatles were one of Lemmy's favourite bands, right? And I'm a big Motorhead fan. And if you took Motorhead away, you wouldn't have Metallica, and if you took Metallica away, you wouldn't have like so many other bands that they influenced as well. So like to go back and sort of appreciate how important like listening to the Beatles was for me at such a young age, and what it influenced after that, it's quite an incredible sort of influential journey, really. So yeah, it started with the Beatles. My sister then gave me a record called, I can still remember it, I can still remember the cover, see the cover, it was a compilation, an Elvis Presley one. It was called Pictures of Elvis, and it was like a sort of one of the millions of best of albums that was like put out, you know.
Yeah.
And so there was that. I got Pictures of Elvis, and my brother got a Shawaddy Waddy album. And I always thought he was her favourite. But yeah, so after that it was but then from there I just like sort of, because you know at the age that I am meant that like I was only exposed to certain types of TV shows and certain types of music, like the Radio 1 didn't happen in our house, you know. Radio 1 was filth as far as the parents were concerned. We listened to Radio 2. We had Radio 2 on, and it was like Terry Wogan and Ken Bruce and people like that, you know. So there wasn't any real pop music being played. But then my sister was still living at home at the time, and then I found her Sisters and Susie and the Banshees album. I can't remember the name of it, and her two Meatloaf albums, Dead Ringer and Bat Out of Hell. Okay, now if you're not impressed by those album sleeves enough, do you know what I mean, without even hearing the music, even if you don't, I mean, they are. If anyone knows those album sleeves, they are so ridiculously machoistic. They make Conan the Barbarian look like a stick man. You know what I mean? The way that they've like sort of just pumped up what I assume is supposed to be this image of Meatloaf like riding this bike out of a grave with bats flying out from behind him, and then Dead Ringers him like on this raft with all these as Nigel Tufton would say, these women, they're semi-nude round him, you know. And so like I went from the Beatles to Elvis to Meatloaf to Susie and the Banshees, and then I was just like, because I was reading, I used to get Lookin', which was like a pop mag back then.
Yeah, I remember it.
You do.
Not that I used to get it. I didn't get it, but I remember it.
Nothing to be ashamed of. I did.
No, I'm just saying.
I used to get it like clockwork. Oh, I joined the Bucks Fizz fan club, mate. I went for it all. Once Bucks Fizz won, yeah, because once they won, didn't they win Eurovision with Making Your Mind Up? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, once
where they ripped the skirts off. Yeah.
Oh,
that's it.
See, he knows.
Everyone knows that.
Never going to forget that in a hurry, though, are you? Yeah, but when you're about the age that I was, which was probably about 7 or 8, you know, that was an eye opener.
So you're similar age to me, aren't you? Have I got it right that you're 50?
No. 54.
You're 54. Okay, you look just a couple of years older than me. So, but we come from the same sort of era, so it's interesting. You know, because I had the similar Elvis Presley thing, but also I had a massive Shakin' Stevens thing as a lad.
I remember seeing a lot of good old Shaky.
Shaky, I've seen him live. I saw him live at Portsmouth at the old Heineken Free Festivals they used to have back in, well, we're talking 30 years ago now, nearly.
Isn't it weird that the closest we've got to Elvis Presley comes from Glamorgan? Good old Shaky.
He was really good, really, really good, and there was such cross.
He sold millions.
Millions.
He was like. He was just phenomenal.
The audience was such a cross section of society. It was like every person was there. Do you know what I mean? Every age and every kind of person, from hippies through to obviously not hippies. You know, the opposite, whatever that is. That was great fun. You know, it was good music. It was good music. You don't get many people doing that nowadays.
You don't get many You don't get many Elvis impersonators from Wales. Topping the charts anymore. No, I'll give you that. That kind of novelty's gone, isn't it, unfortunately?
Yeah, it has a little bit. So you learned guitar?
My brother was the guitarist originally, and I started playing piano, and that has proved immensely helpful. I've still got the dexterity in my hands for playing melodies on my MIDI keyboard when I'm writing synth melodies or patterns or bass lines or anything at all. I've still got the dexterity in my fingers from when I learned to play the piano.
Yeah.
But then, I realised that there was no piano player in AC/DC. So I was like, well, this isn't for me then, is it? And I'm left-handed as well. My brother's right-handed, and so I learned to play guitar right-handed because that's the way that his guitar was strung. You know, because a left-handed guitar is strung
rather than upside down.
Yeah, a la Hendrix. So I went from I had piano lessons for a few years. I got up to grade 5. I did up to grade 5 on piano, and but there were once I saw AC/DC on Rock Goes to College by mistake. I think my mum left the TV on, or didn't realise what I was watching, and I saw this. I don't know how old Angus Young would have been then, but I mean, I just saw this, like what I saw as a fully grown guy dressed as a schoolboy, and that running around the stage playing the guitar like a man possessed, you know, which was in essence what he was trying to achieve, and he did, and it blew me off my feet. It was the next level of me hearing that first chord from A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles, seeing Angus Young on AC/DC on Rock Goes to College, on a black and white TV in like 1979 or something like that, and then I switched from piano. I didn't explain why. All right, Mum, have you seen AC/DC? Well, I have. I want to learn how to play guitar. So I switched to guitar.
Excellent. And so you played in lots of different bands, or have you just had main bands that you played in?
Quite a few. I mean, probably less than 10 in total. But the thing is, once I started playing in bands when I was about 18, and I didn't really start gigging until I was about 20. But because I didn't have that I didn't have that. I mean, I had a great deal of home encouragement and support when it came to playing the piano and playing guitar. When I was playing classical guitar, like when I was like angling after the sort of the John Williams, Julian Bream kind of approach to guitar. But once I wanted to start playing electric and stuff, my mum was, well, my dad just blatantly didn't understand it, and my mum, from what she did understand of it, despised it. So they were very opposed to
the devil's music.
Yeah. Well, it was worse than that, I think, as far as they were concerned, because the devil was dealing with like big things like war and stuff like that, and this was in the home, so they were more concerned about that, about what was affecting their kids. They were very opposed to it. Well, I don't think my dad really understood it. My dad didn't get involved in the conversations, in the arguments about me wanting to grow my hair, or about me wanting to have a denim jacket, or how tight my trousers were and things like that. But my mum was very opposed to it, like seriously. Like I used to have to put the clothes that I wanted to wear to school in my school bag, and I can still remember like getting changed in the alleyway near our house before I got on the bus. Like I'd take my school trousers off, put my tight jeans on, and put my school trousers and my shoes in my bag, and put my enormous white like basketball boots on.
It's so bizarre, because I used to do the same thing, but probably different style. So I used to put on my like trainers, my Adidas trainers, because I was sort of like I was more a hip hop kind of angle growing up, sort of.
Right.
Same as you, Beatles. My dad was a massive fan of John Lennon. In fact, he even looked like him. Okay. I guess a massive fan of the peace movement and all that kind of thing. But I don't really know. I never really got to talk to my dad about that, because he died when I was like 10 years old. But but the Beatles were always being played, and especially John Lennon. I was never really a fan of 80s pop music, if you know what I mean. I liked sort of the sort of hip hop vibe, and then the early sort of acid house. And when I was coming out of school, that's what was sort of coming through a little bit.
When I was at school, there was a lot of like white lines, like that, and that a lot of break that they were listening to. The kids back then in the mid 80s, they were listening to like breakdance music.
Yeah, and Grandmaster Flash and
totally. And that was hand in hand with the hip hop stuff. Certainly to begin with, anyway. Yeah.
I had that kind of Run DMC vibe, So, when I did the same as you, I got changed at school. The amount of times I got suspended just for not wearing the right uniform, and putting tracky bottoms on the way, that kind of thing.
The tracky bottoms I can understand. See, I was wearing black trousers. It's just that they were like way too tight. Well, way too tight for school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, and that was not good. And then I'd have to get changed out of them again before I came home as well.
I wonder how many people actually did that, because I used to get changed in the telephone box on the way.
like a crap teenage Superman.
I always wanted to be able to break dance. I tried. I wasn't very good at it. I could just about manage a windmill, and I could do a scramble. And what's the other one? Where
what's the scramble? I don't remember that.
Yeah, I'm not doing it now. I can't show you.
It's not a trick. That's where you go.
I don't know how to describe it. You're just kind of like doing the thing around on the floor, yeah.
Okay. So it's sort of like a little sort of walking round thing.
Where you kind of jump over your feet and your hands at the same time, kind of thing. Yeah.
Caterpillars and head spins. Caterpillar. They always impress me.
That's it. The head spin. I always did it, but I never had the right head kit, to do it.
The right head kit?
Yeah, because you needed a decent hat or something, didn't you, to be able to do it properly?
Yeah, really. But it's a hat. It's not like I never have a decent enough hat to do a head spin.
Well, I
was such an underprivileged child.
Yeah, I think I probably had a pom-pom on every hat I had, so that wouldn't have worked.
That would be a
problem. But I was all right when I was younger. I was quite good at dancing, so I liked the scene. And I remember at my youth club, we had some vinyl decks, but there was never anybody to show us how to use it. I remember playing things like Two Unlimited and Bizarre Inc. and stuff like that. But not having a clue how to mix or what we were doing. We just probably scratched all the vinyl up and went out and got drunk out the back or something like that.
Just reminded me of something. You just reminded me of like I remember being in my bedroom at my mum's house, and I had a 7-inch. All right, wait, a 7-inch single of Dollar, Give Me Back My Heart, right? Okay, and I remember putting it on that same record player that I played A Hard Day's Night on, and everything else. Because I was banging to buying like 7-inch singles back then. You know, I was like quite into pop music. I had loads of old rubbish, like, you know, Dexy's Midnight Runners, Coming On. Basically, a lot of the chart stuff, you know.
Yeah.
All that stuff that you said you weren't a fan of, which is fair enough, because not everyone can like everything.
Well, the thing is, I say that, but there's loads that I do like when I think about it. I don't know. I think it just reminds me of an era in my life where I wasn't very happy, so I kind of connect most of it, and then I'll track back and I listen to it and go, oh, actually, I quite like that one, and then I'll take my words back. So I can't slag off all 80s music. There was loads of stuff that came out of it, you know.
Yeah.
I enjoyed loads of it. I think the first record, other than Shakin' Stevens, I know the first one I ever had, it was by Burl Ives, and it had loads of little sort of kiddies, you know, the big Rock Candy Mountain and stuff like that on it, and I know an old lady who swallowed a fly. You know, perhaps she'll die. Yeah, and those kind of tracks. And then I think the very first record I really remember buying for myself that I thought, right, I'm going to go out and buy a record, because others came from birthdays, was Genesis, the Invisible Touch album.
Hosted by Ed Paterson, bringing you the sound of the underground.
So I think it's about time we had another track. This is by Phil, On the Nose, a Stephen Flynn remix. And from the very beginning, the very opening, you know this is a quality track. And just listen.
Subscribe, share, and turn it up. Behind the Decks with Ed Paterson, where DJs drop the beat and the truth.
Okay, so your first gig, can you remember it?
First one I went to?
No, first one you performed at.
Yeah, I can. It was at the Druid's Head in... Oh, no, hang on a minute. No, that's my first gig with a band. First, like... No, because I had, like I said, I had guitar lessons for probably about a year and a half. And I do remember they were just recitals, where you'd like learn bits of music by other people. And I did a duet with a guy who I used to share my lesson with. Like, we both get taught at the same time. Make a saving, do you know what I mean?
Fair,
makes sense.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Not that we were paying for it. It was it was parentally funded. So we both sit in on the same lesson. And that was my first gig. I don't remember how. I remember it going all right. I mean, people clapped, but at recitals you clap to anything, don't you? Do you know what I mean? They're doing their best, but I guess it was all right. That was my first sort of like in front of a crowd performance, playing an instrument that I remember. But my first like sort of plug in your electric guitar and play a gig was at the Druid's Head in Herne Bay with my first band, which is called we were called Mother's Ruin. I think we played like about 5 songs. We played like a cover of I can't remember, it was by the band Cinderella, who were like sort of a glam rock band from America. We played one of them. We played that. I think we might have played We Will Rock You by Queen, the fast version, and I can't remember the other one. And then we had like 2 original songs as well, and we were supporting another band.
And how old were you then?
Probably about like 19. 19.
And so have you played in bands ever since that then? Just playing guitar? Do you still play the keys?
No, I don't. Not in terms of like. I mean, I couldn't play chopsticks anymore. Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, when it comes to writing music these days, you don't have to. You can write it once it's digitalized. You can learn you can learn 2 bars of something and go right. Okay, I've learned that. Record that. Okay, then you learn the next bit. Then you record that. You don't even have to play the thing all the way through.
Behind the Decks podcast, Submix Sessions with Ed Paterson.
Let's zoom forward now then. Let's talk about your DJing and your producing, right? And so I'm quite interested in your process and how that all started out for you and what kind of stuff you're producing and what you're doing with it.
First started mucking about on we used to go around to a mate's house, and he was using it was an Amiga, but I can't remember the model. But I remember the software. The software he was using was Amiga Pro Tracker. Okay.
Yeah.
And you just have to load all of the samples in with a disc at the side of the computer. I honestly can't remember the name of the model, but it was the software was Amiga Pro Tracker 2020 or 2.0, I think it was.
Okay.
Excuse me. And that we first started mucking about on that, and we had an Amiga. So that was the first. It was quite looking back at it now. I've just remember. I haven't thought about it in years, but I used to have all these samples, these code samples scrolling down the screen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you used to manually change them and activate different samples by using the keyboard rather than like using a mouse or anything like that. I don't think we had actually did we have a mouse with it? We must have done. But so
might have been a joystick back then. With joysticks.
Yeah, or a paddle.
Yeah. And you always had a mate who had a better joystick with really nice hand grip and maybe 15 different trigger buttons rather than just one.
One on the top, one on the front, one on each side.
Do you remember the Atari? Where you used to swap the games into the top.
The original one, yeah.
Those they had one button on it. Do you remember the game? What was it? Must have been Daley Thompson's Decathlon or something like that. And you that was actions of very, very fast fingers. In fact, it blurred in front of me on the screen. That's how fast your fingers were then. Yeah, that's pretty impressive, yeah.
Subscribe, share, and turn it up. Behind the Decks with Ed Paterson, where DJs drop the beat and the truth.
What kind of genres do you produce?
I guess it everything from like house through to quite intense techno, really. I haven't gone into like Shran's techno territory, although I do quite like. I went through a period of really, really liking it. I mean, I'm talking about stuff like sort of Pet Duo and Boris S and artists like that, and Viper XXL. That real kind of like boom, digga, boom, digga, boom, digga, boom, digga, boom, digga, boom. Do you know what I mean? I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope that explains it. Just the drum sound enough, like sort of like, okay, that's Shran's. Yeah, you know that.
Yeah.
As much as I like it, I don't have the technology. Sorry, I don't have the knowledge to know how to make that level of techno at this stage. But yeah, pretty much, I've done like quite down tempo progressive house, like about 118 BPM, up to like about 146 BPM. Techno is the fastest that I've done. But I just genuinely write for the mood, like however I'm feeling. Do you know what I mean? I very rarely sit down unless it's a remix, and someone's asked for something specific, which you kind of have to. Unless they give you a blank canvas and say, like, okay, do whatever you like with it. Yeah, I genuinely write how my mood goes. Like, I could start off writing what would be intended to be a progressive track, and it'll come out as like rolling or hypnotic techno, or vice versa. Or I could sit down intending to write a hypnotic techno track, and it will come out like sort of with a more funky tinge to it, or progressive. I just go wherever the creative boat steers itself, really.
Do you think about what you're trying to create before you create it, and think about your mood and then create it, or do you just, because like I don't do that, I just start doing it, and then I don't know, I guess my mood comes out through it a little bit, rather than me trying to interpret myself through the music I'm writing at the time. Where's your motivation come from for it?
Well, at the moment, it's like I haven't done any for fucking ages, so I better do something. But then I think about that, and I've got tracks that are out there with labels at the moment, waiting to get a response. Like I've got me and Ali Wilson, who I will probably talk about a lot throughout the podcast. We've got a couple of tracks that are with Tidy at the moment, and. Yeah, I usually write, if I get a riff in my head, I don't start a track unless I've got an idea. I don't ever sit down and go, right, let's write something. Okay. I only sit down when something's in my head and go, oh, I've got to do something with that. That's brilliant. But I have got like folders and folders of just like riffs and drum loops that I've made, and patterns and just sounds. I'm pretty terrible, as my girlfriend will tell you. That's the end of that sentence. I'm pretty terrible.
That's enough said.
Yeah, just sitting down and just doing sound design and just going, oh, okay, right. So let's have a muck about with this synth, and then you as a producer as well, you know how it is. You make one sound, or you fail to make one sound, so you make a different one, and then that triggers something else. These things open. There's just loads of little doors that get opened, or there's loads of little doors in front of you, and you have to choose which ones to open creatively.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing way of doing it. I've always struggled with pinning down my creativity into like a genre.
Ha! That's not a
what I mean?
scoff. That's kind of like a man after my own squidgy red thing in the middle of my chest.
Right.
I get tracks rejected because the labels I send them to don't know what genre it is. I'm like, right, cool, okay. Well, I think it sounds progressive. I think it sounds techno-y. Like I've said, I'm not going to name the label, but I sent a track away to 3 labels, and they all sent it back saying the same thing. It's a good track, but we don't know what it is. So, and then I sent it to, and probably the label I should have sent it to first. I'm narrowing the filter here by saying it's a label that I've been signed to before. I sent it to him and I said, it's been rejected by 3 labels. And he went, that's probably not a good opening gambit when you're sending it to someone to say it's been rejected. But I'm still, I'm like 4 or 5 years into production, so I'm still learning how to sort of really approach labels with stuff, and so much good stuff and so many creative parameters get pushed back by people by saying and doing things they're not supposed to do. 2 words, Aphex Twin. Do you know what I mean? No, there's no kind of like what you should and shouldn't do. And I'm not saying I'm planning to go down that road, but I've never been one for. Well, I have. I tried using the formulaic approach. I was part of the. I don't know if you know the Mixmasters community. I was signed up with Mixmasters for a while, and there were some great tutorials and coaching sessions on there. And then I realised that to maximise working with Mixmasters, I need to probably spend $4,000 and go and do one of their retreats in Ibiza and stuff like that, and that's never going to happen. I'm not. If I had the money, I don't think I'd operate like that. I'm not saying that it's not a beneficial way to do it. It obviously is, to go and hang out with people like Funk Devoid and Saytek and I can't remember the other people that they've had out there, but like some really, they're very high end and successful.
And that way you can carve your way into the industry.
Yeah, sure. And you get on first name terms with these people, but at the same time, I've managed to, going back to the Ali Wilson thing, like Ali and I have been mates since the early 2000s, really, when we were both DJing on relatively the same circuit in London an awful lot. I mean, Ali's he has been an A-list producer, really, playing internationally. His Friday night radio on Radio 1 by Judge Jules and Pete Tong, and he was tipped by Judge Jules and Carl Cox as he got producer of the year, I think, from Carl Cox at one stage.
Wow.
And even when before I knew that Ali was producing, when I was seeing him DJing, I just loved all the tracks that he was playing, and we became mates, and we still are, and we're still writing and producing today and ringing each other at stupid hours of the morning.
That's awesome. Do you think, because I've recently become a DJ over the last year and a half, bought my first set of little decks, taught myself to DJ, but been producing music, well, I believe, other people might differ, but produce music in a way that a DJ would play it. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a DJ playing it, but it's just loads of tracks that I've mixed together in these journeys, So, so other than that, I became a DJ a year and a half ago, and one of the things that I've been trying to work out, and I know there's loads of other people out there that must be doing this, is how to get yourself into the industry. And my route in has been through social media posting and through radio. So, and I now have shows on 3 different radio stations. And that's at the moment my route to an audience. I live in a small village, and there's not really there's no scene here for this kind of, for the music that I play, or for the people that I want to have around me in a party environment, And whereas in Brighton, obviously you've got a lot of access to a lot of different things, and you're going to be meeting people by living there, and you can build up a network quite easily. So I've set up a Facebook page called the Countryside DJ Network, and I'm hoping that people will come in and join and try and help each other to give people access to the scene, and so they're not just bedroom DJs, because they could be very good. I know I'm really good, but now I'm getting the opportunity to show it to people through radio, but not everybody gets that. And my thing now is I want to get out and DJ in front of an audience. Still don't quite know how to do that. And so, one of the things I wanted to do with this podcast is to pick the brains of people that have been out there doing it, and see if there's any ideas that you could give to people that would help them to do that. So that's quite interesting, you're saying about the Ibiza camps. And then the other way it seems is that you've got to know people or be in the right place, which is right time, right place. Everyone always says that. Have you got any ideas of, how you would advise people trying to get into the scene? Not necessarily me, but just anybody, like young DJs and old DJs, or just people that just love it and want to do it more.
Oh, I was trying not to smile so wryly throughout that. Riley, as in WRYLY, not Riley like the person's name.
Yes.
Completely honest, I don't know anymore. Right? There was a stage where if you'd asked me in 2010 how to do it, because in the early in the early to mid 2000s, I was swamped with DJ gigs. I put myself out there ridiculous amounts. Relationships came and went in my life because of how committed and dedicated I was to going out, to networking, to spending time record shopping, playing those records, finding which ones work the best together, recording mixes on cassette and then onto CD, and then going out to clubs, to the clubs that I wanted to play at, or more importantly the events, the promotions that I wanted to play at, going out armed with a bag of like 20 or 30 mixtapes and CDs, tracking down the promoters, hounding them, giving them a mixed CD, getting their phone number, ringing them 3 days later, because I'd put my phone number on the CD or on the cassette. Sound like such a dinosaur, but this is the painful truth of it.
I did it with my folk bands years ago. We had tapes that we used to put out. The first demo I ever did was on a tape, and that's what you did. We went round all the venues and dropped them off,
Nowadays, but in answer to your question, this is probably not ideal for a podcast. I say ask someone else. Ask someone who's about 20, 30 years younger than me, because this is going to sound like an old bloke in the corner moaning, okay, right? But like, you asked the question, so I'm going to give you my honest answer. Go on. You
give me the honest answer.
If you look on social media, God help you, right? Okay, you'll see so many interviews with DJs who, the ones that inspired me from back in the day, like John W. Fleming, Carl Cox, John Digweed, Sasha, those kind of guys. So many of them say that they just ripping social media apart in terms of people becoming popular because of social media and TikTok and streaming channels and video channels and things like that. And also in lockdown as well. I mean, even as a band, I saw bands form in lockdown and become popular through social media because they understood social media marketing strategies about how to reach audiences. They understood algorithms. They loved sitting in front of a computer and working out, or if they didn't have to work it out, just following the routine of getting followers, getting likes, upping their statistics so that they looked popular, or they became popular. And my brother, who's an excellent DJ in the way that technically he's a good DJ, but that's playing the right records in the right order isn't just what being a good DJ is unfortunately about anymore. You've got to get your name out there, you've got to be a social media ninja, or you've got to have a social media campaign that is really like bomb proof and really quite aggressive. But my brother's like a good DJ in the way that I am. Like he's very good at picking tunes and selecting them and playing them in the right order, in the right way, at the right time. But he came up with this mantra like a few years ago, and he said, being popular doesn't make you good, and being good doesn't make you popular.
Yeah, well,
that's the harsh truth of it, because you can look at how many views or how many listens I get on if I post anything about like my tracks I've released, or how many listens my Mixcloud shows get, or my mixes on Mixcloud get, anything like that. And they're no way near as high as a lot of people who this is going to sound really snobby, probably aren't as technically as good a DJ as me, but because they're really popular on social media, you know, people follow people, people bring people, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the more followers someone's already got, the more they're going to get. And even there was a Facebook group that I'm part of because of the nature of the genre of music. I'm not going to name it. And he did like a social media sort of strategy thing, and he said, in terms of posting things, make sure you post things or post YouTube videos that have already got loads of likes. And I can't remember from an algorithmic perspective why that was a good idea, but I was like, I don't want to post things that loads and loads of people already like because that doesn't deserve any more attention. Do you know what I mean? The videos and the artists and the music that hasn't got loads of likes is the stuff that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. The new stuff, the underground stuff.
Exactly, like a whingy old man, like moaning about how good it used to be back in the day. But I honestly, I would prefer, if I thought it would work, I would still prefer to be going out into clubs with cassettes and CDs and talking to promoters face to face, rather than messaging them and them seeing how many likes or followers I've got, you know. And this is and your Digweeds and your John 00 Flemings and your Carl Coxes are there. They're in the same camp. They really are. And you see that they've all done videos, numerous videos, saying about how it's so easy to get popular these days because how social media it creates the doors are off the hinges in terms of like how many people you can reach.
Yeah,
just by doing things. Well, once you understand the algorithms and stuff like that.
This is it. I mean, people are getting
boo-hoo.
Yeah, I know. People are getting famous because they do a little 30-second reel with 3 dancers that are doing a funky little dance with it, and their songs in the background, and all of a sudden they're launched into, you know, the stratosphere because that little reel's gone down very well. And, you know, as an artist, is that what you really want? It's tempting first of all, you don't know who they are. There could be anybody.
Yeah,
they're just trying to get your money.
You don't know if it's genuine.
This is it. And there's lots of people that are out there that are offering help on all these different campaigns and this, that and the other online and on social media. But I don't trust any one of them that has approached me. And so I just wonder, you know, that's a whole chasm in itself. We could talk for hours about that. But very difficult, isn't it, to do anything unless you've got that presence to begin with. So what I think it comes down to really is there's a lot of DJs out there, right, that know they're never going to they might make a little bit of money, but they aren't going to make much money from it, probably can't live off it, and they're never going to get famous, and never going to be that thing that they wish that they were probably in the back of their mind. But so what you have to do as an artist, as a DJ, as a producer, is sit back and say, well, what are my motivations for doing this? Because it's never going to be that big thing. Why am I doing this? You know? Yeah. And I ask myself this all the time, but like I say, I do it because, really just because I love it. And I go a little bit deep on it sometimes and think about breaking it down onto a sort of quantum level, it just being a vibration. And anybody being involved in music, for whatever level it is from the very beginning of creating that acoustic sound or creating that sound through a synth or through a sine wave or whatever, however you make that sound, and then that's put together. And then eventually that's put out to somebody to listen to and interpret in their as the electrics, you know, play with their cortex, and then they develop some kind of emotional attachment to that wave that you've just thrown through space invisibly, and they decide whether they get anything from that. And I just find that process mental.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you think, I know it's a bit Star Trek-y and stuff, but effectively that's what we're doing. We're taking an invisible wave and making somebody feel a certain way with it. And also I get that from it as well. We all do in some way, usually. I mean, there might be the odd occasion when people don't. So that for me is kind of one of my motivations, is that the science behind music is mental, and there's a resonance that's sent out when you manipulate sound and the frequencies that you're putting out there that actually, you know, resonate with people in different ways and create different things, and you know, that kind of that level. So that's that. I have that kind of motivation behind what I'm doing, as well as when everything's too much for me in life, I can just hide away in the world of music, and when I come out of it, hopefully I'm feeling better, that kind of thing. What's yours? What's your real deep-rooted reason for your direction and what you do and why you do it as an artist?
Well, enjoyment, purely pleasure. I have no the way that like artists being marketed these days, as we were talking about regarding social media just now. My end game has just changed. It really has. I have no aspirations to play the biggest festivals in the world or anything like that, because now, as it's publicly known, the vast majority of the acts playing the big festivals are having to play pre-recorded sets so that it works with all the visuals and the pyrotechnics and stuff like that. That is not going to happen, babe. No way. I will never be doing that. I've always made, even from like back in playing in like my first bands, I thought surely it's better to play to a 300 capacity room and have 200 people in it, rather than play like, because even if you watch like big videos of events like Tomorrowland and Awakenings and stuff like that, and the camera's going around the crowd and whatnot, and you're like, these people that is not a crowd enjoying a DJ set. Yeah, there's too much fucking around with like cameras, and there's too much talking going on and stuff like that. And when I used to go to in the 90s, but I didn't really start going to raves and whatnot till about like the early 90s, the mid 90s. But when I used to go, the crowd was absolutely like 100% focused on what was going on music wise. But yeah, there really was a real, I wouldn't say spiritual, but there really was just like an energy focus towards what was going on with the music. I don't recall being at like the Fridge or being at places like the Stratford Rex in London, or being at the Mass and looking around me and people just sort of not really paying attention and talking amongst themselves. There was like, and people were really dancing. The energy level in the dancing was an awful lot higher as well. I can't put my finger on why it is, but I think just cameras and phones and just people having the opportunity to be distracted away from the main focal point of what's providing the music, or who's providing the music.
And I think people are a bit more conscious now that they might be caught on camera by somebody else, for example. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we didn't have that distraction.
Well, you didn't have YouTube as well. No, you didn't. You couldn't see this kind of stuff unless you went to it, because this stuff wasn't on TV, and it certainly wasn't on video channels or streaming channels or anything like that. The only way you could experience it was to get off your ass and, you know, ring that mobile phone number that would tell you where to be.
Yeah.
You know, and then you'd go there, and then you'd meet the convoy, and then you'd go somewhere, and you'd follow that convoy.
Tell me about your show on Codesouth.
My show is called Phil Abel's Saturday Night Pre-Party. It runs on the 2nd and the 4th Saturday of the month from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. I play pretty much exclusively from labels that are run by my friends who put out tunes almost every week. So there's new promos every week. I don't play mainstream stuff. I don't play, when I say big tunes, I mean I don't play like very well-known tunes. My show is all about new music and new promos and independent labels. Those labels are predominantly Prognosis Records, We Are Existence Records, who are based in Italy, and MK837, which is an American label, Malfunction Records, Dysfunction, Dark Fiend, who else? Jeepers Music, who are based in Brighton. That's Nick Hook's label, who runs Dance for Peace and runs Tech Noir Night as well. Pretty much everything I play is off those labels.
Excellent.
And just because you don't know it doesn't mean it's not any good. And remember, you didn't know anything before you found it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
This is why it's good to be playing the stuff off these labels. I have a 2-hour show. It starts usually with like progressive breaks, and then I go into tech house and house, and then I just as the energy increases, so does the BPMs. And I nearly always routinely finish off with my mate Jake Duval. He has 2 labels, and he has a hypnotic techno label called Malfunction Records. And the last sort of 15 to 20 minutes is usually 5 or 6 tracks, new releases or upcoming releases or recent releases from his label. So I pretty much play from those labels on a bi-weekly basis.
Excellent.
And I think more other people should as well, because I don't need to be playing the tracks that loads of other people are playing. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's it, isn't it? I think that's awesome. And I'm constantly looking for music that not everybody knows. And also, you don't want to, like you say, you don't want to play what everybody else is playing. So we're going to go into a 20-minute mix to finish off this podcast. All tracks on this mix by Ali Wilson and Phil Abel. Track 1, Can You Dance, which is a free download available on SoundCloud. Track 2 is Carcade, which is on the label Recovered Dark. And track 3 is called Incantation, and the label Tech Elec. And track 4 is Carnivalium on the label Flashover. This is awesome. Hope you really enjoy this mix. This is Phil Abel and Ali Wilson.
This one's fresh off the decks. Behind the Decks podcast exclusive.
For new horizons. First bondage, then mental, now financially oppressed. With this beat we dance, we know we passed the test. So as you struggle to catch the rhythm with your feet, ask yourself, can you dance to my beat? to my beat?
Behind the Decks podcast exclusive.
Do you know what? It's been really good to sort of get to know you a bit.
Cheers, man. Likewise. It's very enjoyable.
Oh, good. I'm pleased you've enjoyed it. And it's really interesting conversation. I can't wait till we talk some more. It's been my absolute honour and pleasure to present Phil to you tonight or today, whenever you're listening. What a star. And I wish you all the best for the future.
Great. Cheers, man. Thank you very much. And to you and to all you listeners as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Phil. Thanks very much.
Cool, man.
So that's the end of episode 2 of Behind the Decks podcast with me, Ed Paterson. I hope you found it enjoyable to listen to. I certainly enjoyed producing it and chatting with Phil Abel, DJ and producer from Brighton, also presenter of his own show on Codesouth FM. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook for all your updates on shows that will be happening in the forthcoming future, and also join the Facebook group Countryside DJ Network. Right, subscribe on the old Mixcloud and leave your comments because I'm very interested to see what you think of the podcast. Moving forward, I have lots of DJs planned to come on the show. So, without further ado, I'll wish you peace, love and loud music, and I'll see you on the next one.
Subscribe, share and turn it up. Behind the Decks with Ed Paterson, where DJs drop the beat and the truth.